Last year, Pixar released a film that was Mexican as can be. They spoke Spanish, they had the town down, the mannerisms, the culture, the kid looked like me at 10, the dad looks like me in 10, and they displayed the most Hispanic thing out there, La Chancla. And look, I'm not saying that a character needs to look exactly like you in order for you to relate to them. I'm not a white jazz musician in New York. I connected with Whiplash. Michael B. Jordan isn't as swole as me in Creed. I loved that movie. Heck, growing up, like half of my friends were obsessed with Harry Potter and that was their escape. None of them were wizards. So what I'm saying as a movie guy is that what I look forward to when I'm watching a movie is a good character, a quality story, because I've seen movies where they clearly pander to my specific demographic, characters that have my name, and those characters just suck. But yet, and I know this doesn't matter to some people, but yet, there is something special when you're watching a big blockbuster, and it's not to say that it hasn't been done before, but from a studio that you really, really admire, for them to put a character up on screen that you can really relate with and looks like you. I know that there's always people, on both extremes, and adults make everything so complicated, but I'm talking about the kids.
These kids.
If a little black kid is watching Black Panther and has the same exact reaction, the same emotions that my 50-year-old self had watching Coco, then that's awesome. I'm aware that movies are fake. Right? I watch a lot of movies. I know that they're fake, but I also believe that movies do hold some sort of impact. And I mean this like 100% with a story that I have about this guy who I went to school with. There was this dude who I knew for like an entire semester. We ate together. We worked on projects together. Then one day we're walking down the hallway. And this guy looks over at me and he says, "Hey, Arturo, you're not that bad of a guy." I'm like, "I know. Yeah. Usually people like you are suspicious." Homie, what the I had known this man for an entire semester. And as he literally told me his main image of Mexicans came from these movies that he watched, where they were drug lords and rapists and murderers. And I believe some of the supporting characters were good people, but it's like, I had a whole semester with this dude, and when he originally met me, he thought I was suspicious, and it wasn't until he got to know me that he realized I wasn't suspicious. I was so flabbergasted, I couldn't even find it in me to mug the guy. So yeah, I really do believe that movies are impactful, because there are people who legitimately don't interact outside of their circle, so they don't know what other people are like, and really the only time that they're seeing them is on the news or on movies. Like my dude in school. What if the only thing that he's seeing is blacks portrayed as slaves, because that's what we usually see them in. Blacks portrayed as thugs, because that's what we usually see them in. Maybe having more positive role models and lead roles could possibly change that. I mean, growing up, I always thought Russians just drank vodka and played with nesting dolls, but it wasn't until I met a Russian that I could officially say that. For real though, sometimes movies can be a little bit more than just movies. And I know that with a movie like this, everyone's been talking about, why has it got to be so political? And I get that, because politics can get really annoying when one, people are really annoying when they talk about it, or two, when someone says something that you don't want to hear. But, the thing with a movie like Black Panther is that it definitely can be viewed as a regular movie. Just a movie that you can love or hate and talk about all the technical aspects. But the reason Black Panther is very political is because, one, Black Panther is based off of a political organization. Two, Black Panther, I don't know if y'all saw the movie, but he's a politician. He's the King of Wakanda. And throughout the entire movie, you're hit with a bunch of these quotes that are very, very, very political. But yet, as I brought up in previous videos, just because a movie is pushing a movement, it still needs to be looked at as a movie. And does it do a good job of being that? I think it's a fun movie. I think that just like other Marvel movies, it does the same thing that, I'm not a big fan of overly CGIing it, ending it with those type of fights. I think at the same time, the first half is paid so you're just like world building, which is cool. Some people love that. I liked the second half when you're actually getting into some themes. I think that while it's Black Panther's movie, Killmonger steals it. I even think the best performances come from Michonne and Gollum. And, for the people who do care, for me, it's like, I don't know, 6 or 7 in my Marvel list. Some people will have it lower. That's cool. Some people have it higher. That's great. I know that a lot of people overly love this movie, and some people are calling it the best movie of the year. I'm happy for you. I just hope you watch more releases this year. And I know that there's other people who don't like the fact that it's getting overly praised. And, you know, I'd say for those of you who, you know, are around with movies, you know how you didn't listen to their opinion before? Just continue watching the movies you do like. For me on this channel, I don't really care about reviewing a movie for the technical aspects. Like, I do think they're important and I do cover them. But, for example, a movie like Whiplash, great editing, great cinematography, great music and performances. But while all that is cool, we could talk about that. I care about the most is how and why it made me feel the way it made me feel. And for Black Panther, I think the character of Killmonger and what he brings to the table is what does it. Should they have hibernated this man for like 40 minutes in the movie? Absolutely not. But when he finally appears and he's like angrier than Vic Mensa, I thought he was compelling because he brings up some really crazy points. I don't agree with this whole, like, you know, kill genocide thing that he wants to do all over the world, where Disney didn't let him say white people, so he says, colonialist or colonist, whatever the word was. I also thought it was funny that he's all about his African culture until it doesn't really help him. So then he's just like, yeah, screw the African culture. But his character, as you see, is a product of other people's wrong decisions, right? Like we've seen this in Marvel a lot recently, where it's like a lot of dads are making really bad decisions and you see the repercussions of them. Now, I can speak personally. Just because your pops ain't there doesn't mean you can act a fool and want to go, like, I don't know, kill another country and kill a bunch of people. But it was an interesting perspective to see where he was coming from, where he wasn't just this other, like, big alien villain who wanted to take over the world. It was interesting to see that at the end of the movie, our hero learns something from the villain and makes a change. What the heck are we going to learn from Thanos? Again, the movie is very political when you look at, you know, what the villain wanted to do in the movie. And I think it brings up something that I've brought up in the past, and I still 100% believe in it, that I don't think all movies need to be universal. Like, they don't have to relate to everyone. They should be crafted well enough that anybody who's, like, I don't know, not the demographic or, you know, not the type of characters that are on screen can watch it and respect it, understand it, go into the world. But to water down something or water down a culture that you're seeing on screen so it can, you know, be more universal, I don't think that's the way to go. I'll bring up Coco and talk about how I know that half of the people who watch it aren't going to relate to it the way that I do. You know, they weren't raised in Mexico. They've never been hit with La Chancla. In Black Panther's case, I think that when you look at the character of Killmonger, and some people have brought up this point, which I think is really, I think it's a good point. You should show, not tell, and there is an aspect in it where they talk about Killmonger, and you see it a little bit, but they don't really get into, like, how bad his upbringing was for him to be that angry. But knowing the demographic they were going for, I'm pretty sure they knew that a certain audience didn't need to be told. They already understood it. What I'm saying is that a lot of people don't like the idea of, you know, acknowledging that everyone's different. This, I don't see color. Bro, we're all different colors. We get our hair done differently. We dress, walk, talk, believe, interact differently. And that's not a bad thing. That's what makes us unique. Pretending like we're all the same because it's going to cut out tensions ain't the way to go. And I know some people know this. For the intellectuals out there who know this, love you, that's great. But honestly, I'm of that belief that if a movie is not universal because it doesn't try to strip away, you know, what makes that unique story unique, if someone doesn't like a movie, that's fine. You not liking the movie is why somebody else might love it. I think the album to Black Panther also goes hand in hand with that, and I made a whole video about it with this guy right here who's about to come up, and it shows you, like, if movies are the one place that you're getting your interactions from, the image of a certain group that you don't associate with, I think going out and actually having conversations helps out as well. And that's what I had with this dude right here.
There are a lot of people who are outraged and are like, this movie is anti-white people. I just wanted to share my perspective on that whole thing. So we're learning about nationalism in history class. Shout out Dr. Shock. And we're learning about the way it started out as a way of really uniting people, making a people stronger. We learned about two types of nationalism, a type that benefited a country and the type that hurt a country. Both of them, though, benefited the people. The first beneficial type was, for example, Bismarck, who after uniting Germany, united all of the people people by creating this invented idea of a German nationality, which at the time didn't even exist. He did this by inventing culture, promoting songs that promoted the idea of what it means to be a German. On a more specific note, going to war, uniting everyone against a common enemy. But at the same time, at that inception of nationalism, you had countries like Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, which were really falling apart and starting to split because of the fact that different ethnic groups started to question why they had to be under a government that didn't directly really represent them. They used cultures that they already knew existed to justify that they should be their own nations. So why the random history lesson? I think being a minority in America forces you to do one of two things: to assimilate as much as you can with American culture, meaning giving up your own culture and identity, or to fully embrace your own culture and also make that independent of the judgment of the norms of American culture and sort of having power there. If you're anywhere in between, all your appreciation for your own culture is going to be under the judgment of the dominant culture. And so why am I saying all of this? Because I think Black Panther is important because it provides an example, it provides something to look up to for how Black people can exist without being reliant on the culture and norms of white people. That a lot of the time it feels like the only option to succeed in a white dominated world is to become as much like white people as possible. But from my experience, it kind of forces you to lose touch with your own culture. And so a movie like this is a little bit of hope, as in you don't have to do that. You could keep in touch with your own culture and still succeed in the world.
Some people think the movie's mediocre. That's fine. Everyone deserves their own mediocre Marvel movie. Black people deserve it. Those Asian actors that people say that they want, yet no one can name them because they're not watching their movies. Mexicans, whatever it is, everyone deserves to have their own mediocre Marvel movie if that's what they want. But for me, if somebody watches this movie and then goes and finds Ryan Coogler's two previous better films, in my opinion, then that's worth it. It's a movie. Remember when Obama won presidency and that didn't mean that everyone just automatically graduated college, but it did bring hope. This movie, it's just a big blockbuster movie. It doesn't mean it's going to change everything, but it could spark hope. I think there's a lot of great filmmakers out there, and we're always talking about, oh, let's see more films, more films. It's not that they're not making the films. The films are already done. There's a lot of indie films out there. Y'all just ain't watching them. I'm glad that big blockbusters are covering more stories. That's dope. Again, first and foremost, I want them to be good stories, not pandering stories. For me, Black Panther falls on the good side of it. And I know some people are like, oh, it's Disney's big, money machine anyway. I still think that they hire people, because I'm a fan of Ryan Coogler, been following the man, with Ryan Coogler still being able to put some personal stuff in it. I mean, part of the story takes place in Oakland. There's that scene at the end of the movie where there's a little black kid who looks up to Black Panther and asks him, who are you? Knowing that Coogler is from Oakland, it adds more to that line where Killmonger, played by Michael B. Jordan, who has said that they're both going to want to make all their movies together, which is super cute. When he has that line where Killmonger says, who would have thought that a kid from Oakland would be believing in fairy tales? When that kid from Oakland is sitting there and he's watching the most beautiful sunset that he's ever seen, that he's only heard of. When you're watching this movie that came from a kid from Oakland, who now has the 5th highest opening box office movie with this blockbuster. It's just a movie, and I really do hope that people get inspired from it, that it brings inspiration to a certain group. And knowing that, it's not going to change everything, but even though it's just a movie, it's what happens after the credits that matters. Thank you for watching. Like I said, click the top video right here for part 1 of this Black Panther collab with my buddy Thought. Also, the bottom one will be the podcast where we get deeper into the movie. And if you're so inclined, go check out the A to Z Patreon, where for just $1, you not only get bonus videos, movie trivia, but we also got some limited edition vibranium from Wakanda itself.